Would you like to have a career in racing, and if so, what would you like to do, Dale?
Well, I want to be a race car driver someday. That's, it's all I've ever known, racing.
What did you want to be when you grew up? So many people live a life of what if. Go to school. Go to college. Get a 9-to-5. This is how we support our dreams, with a safety net. Because we're unsure about taking a leap of faith. Because we're afraid. As we grow, we cross things off our list of dreams. We cut them down, make them realistic. Having control of things is reassuring. But for some, the rush of being out of control is what gives them life. Some say racing cars is reckless. Maybe they're right. Out of bounds isn't just cheating, it's cheating death. Football fields made up in seconds. Decisions made in instants. For the people that climb behind the wheel of these cars, they're not driving it. They become part of it. It's an extension of the body. As a child, I looked up to these people, faces hidden by helmets. The less you saw of the driver, the more believable it became that they were, in fact, just part of the machine. It's easy to forget that inside the cockpit is someone just like us, but with the mindset that fear is a motivation, not a barrier. But the reality is, race car drivers are not like us. They never cross anything off their list of dreams. They just keep writing more. Daytona.
This is the finish of the Daytona 500. Side by side.
Le Mans. Indianapolis. Monaco. Places that used to be just places, now international symbols of victory. To those that enjoy the spectacle of racing, the 2 feet of concrete and steel cables are a wall between us and them, between sitting in the grandstands and standing in victory lane. These same walls are a stark, immovable reminder that racing drivers put their lives on the line for the sake of the thrill and entertainment. Despite the risk, despite the heartbreak,
Oh my gosh!
despite the cost. There are some on the sidelines who are fascinated by the danger. They are fascinated by speed, fascinated by the undying desire to be just a little bit better. Their dreams, erased by geography, finances, or the lack of a famous last name. There are some who once wished to be a race car driver, but aren't, because they didn't get the chance. And they thought they'd spend the rest of their lives watching their heroes on television, or from the other side of the fence. They thought it was impossible to climb into a race car, so they crossed it off their list. But it's not impossible. There is a ticket to the other side of the fence. For those who want it bad enough, this is your chance. The summer heat is cooking the asphalt in Sears Point, California for the 8th round of the 2020 SPEC MX-5 Sim Racing Challenge. Throughout 2020, we've run this special sim racing series to grant one driver the opportunity of a lifetime to take the hobby of sim racing from the virtual realm to the real racetrack. For several drivers, the championship is very much in reach, and with only one round remaining after this week, it's time to buckle down in the wine country of California. A special thanks to Rick Motec High Performance Sim Racing Equipment, Level Up Racing School, Winding Road Racing, and Winding Road Magazine for putting on these events as we tackle the last 2 rounds of the season, and it all begins tonight with the penultimate round of 2020 in Sonoma, California. This is a beautiful racetrack in Sears Point, been around for quite some time. I'm joined tonight by Finian Dcunha and 2019 SPEC MX-5 Sim Racing Challenge champion DJ Alessandrini, who's got a lot on his plate because this weekend in Road Atlanta, DJ, you get to drive one of these cars for real because you won this last season.
Yeah, I'm super excited to finally redeem that prize and show all those real world guys what some gamer nerds can do out there.
Well, gamer nerd maybe, but real race car driver for sure. As we got Finian Dcunha joining us here tonight. Finian, we've seen 7 rounds so far, all over the virtual country, but Sonoma and Circuit of the Americas, our last 2 rounds of the season, the points picture getting ever closer.
Yeah, and it is getting closer and is also expanding quite a bit. I mean, Kenneth Steele has been absolutely enjoying his lead up at the top of the standings, and I think at this point in the season, I think he's pretty much locked up leading the points into the championship race. The big thing is really the fact that for the championship race, the points, the entire gap is going to be all reset. Kenneth Steele's going to have a gap, but it's only going to go down to 1 point with the way they're going to line up in the championship standings. So he can enjoy that lead for now, but it's going to go away by next week at COTA.
So qualifying is underway, and Sonoma, I believe we ran this last season as well, and you think to a racetrack like this, DJ, it's very, very technical. There's a lot of elevation change here. I'm really curious as to your thoughts about how this race is going to go tonight and how important qualifying is going to be in your finishing position tonight.
Qualifying is extremely important here at Sonoma Raceway. This is a very, very difficult track to pass on. So qualifying is going to be a lot of it, and mistake mitigation is going to be another part of it. It's extremely easy to make mistakes on this track, but we've already seen tracks like that in the calendar so far this year, and the drivers have shined on those tracks, and it kind of makes a situation where there's not a whole lot of mistakes, not a whole lot of passing, but drivers are getting frisky. They know they got to make some moves to catch Ken Husil and Jonathan White to give them a shot at the series finale next race. Before
we get too far into this, DJ, I want you to take me through a lap here at Sonoma Raceway. Tell me, what does it take to be fast here, and what does a lap look like around Sonoma Raceway?
Yeah, you're heading up the hill, banking left. You're going to want to cut a lot of distance. You're going to take a bunch of curb on the left and then a bunch of curb on the right. You'll be feathering the throttle as you crest that hill there. Heading next into the next chicane, which is basically just flying up a hill, which would be turn 3 on the map here. And it's basically just the same as turn 1. You're taking a bunch of curb on each side. On the right side there, as you crest the hill, you'll actually your left side tires will barely be on the pavement, and then you'll come flying down the hill. You take a right-hand turn into the infield, which would be, let's see, I'm losing track because the map's spinning. Which would be turn 4. Turn 4, you would then head into the infield. Then you have a really long left-hand corner on the carousel. You'll want to stay tight on the whole thing. It won't feel good, but I'm telling you, it's the faster way around it. You'll shoot down the end of the drag strip there. That's an actual drag strip here at Sonoma. And you're going to go into the tricky turn 6 and 7. It's all one turn. They call it 2 turns, but it's one turn. And then you go into the best part of the track, which is the S's, and you'll have at the end of the S's, you'll have this fast right-hander that's going to shoot into the last hairpin of the corner. That fast right-hander is crucial to nail that because that's setting up the best passing opportunity of the whole track.
Yeah, turn number 11 is where everything finishes off there, Finian. We know more than well from other series running at this racetrack here at iRacing that turn 11 is pretty much the only place we're going to want to make a legitimate passing attempt in bigger cars, but here tonight, you're probably going to have some more opportunities around this place, but turn 11 is definitely going to be the action spot.
Yeah, and because it's going to be the action spot, we could also give pretty much early give it the nickname Calamity Corner. We've seen it in a lot of other series too. While it's a prime passing spot, also leads to a lot of carnage and a lot of wrecks down there if guys are not careful enough. So I think we definitely might see a wreck or two or a spin or two down to that corner.
So if you want to follow along, live timing and scoring is available at simtvbroadcasting.com/timing. That link is available in the YouTube live chat, so make sure you check that out. As we are following Jonathan White, who right now, Finian, is the quickest driver on the racetrack by 36 thousandths of a second over Steve Ficacci in the 51. A 1:51.455 is the best time so far.
Yeah, and again, you do want to point out, too, that White, you already see he's so far back in the points. He's 45 points behind Ken O'Seal, and that's because he missed 2 rounds. So he's got a lot of speed, and he's shown in these last few weeks up there pretty much competing head-to-head with Ken O'Seal for these race wins, and still looking really strong in qualifying, which he has been for the most part all season.
DJ, you led the points for the majority of the season last year, but going into the last round, it was a little bit tighter than it is this year. What was it like heading into the last race with not a huge points cushion, and will Ken O'Seal enjoy a bit of a cushion this time around when we head to Dakota in 2 weeks?
So last year, the drop races kind of were a little deceiving. I actually only went into the final round, which all the points are reset. I only went in with 1 point over Hartley, but that was because of the drop races. I thought I had a whole race over him. So it was a lot closer, but I didn't feel any of that pressure just because I don't know how to math, so.
All right, so Ken O'Seal's on track right now. He has not yet laid down a time in qualifying, so we'll keep an eye on him. We've got just under 30 drivers here tonight for the penultimate round of the season. Really good field sizes all year long, Finian, and this is much better than it was at the tail end of last year, which tells me that it's going to be busy, very busy, traffic-wise, through the first couple sectors of the first lap of both races. Again, we run 2 20-minute races tonight. So the first lap going to get very, very hectic, especially in the midfield, which is where Paul Darling, Riley Thompson, Mitchell Peak, Kevin Zhu, and a whole host of others are stuck right now.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm curious to see, as qualifying is going to progress, we see some guys jump up through the order, like Darling, like Thompson, as you're saying. Even Michael Borden's who's sitting at 9th. Borden's been really quick this season. He's improved quite a bit in the pace department. He's been in the top 5 pretty much every single race. So he's still trying to get himself out of 9th place. I imagine he's going to be on a decent lap this time through as he's coming through the final sector of the track.
Got time coming right now with about a 1:40, about an 11-second run back to the line at the exit of turn number 11. 7 minutes left here in qualifying. How is Steve Ficacci? See Michael Borden back out. DJ, Steve Ficacci is a driver that's sort of been mired in the back half of the top 10 for the first part of the season. What would make a driver better here than at a faster track like we've been at the last couple rounds, like at Sebring?
Really, I think this is a track that rewards practice a lot. We might be seeing a practice Steve Ficacci right now. There's a lot of ebb and flow to this track, and putting down a clean lap is tough. I think that's one of the reasons why we don't see Ken O'Seal at the near the top of the board yet. And Steve Ficacci just went out there and put down a flyer, and that is a smoking fast lap, a 0.4 here at Sonoma in this NC Cup car. I think what we see is Steve was just able to put the clean lap down right away. So now he has a banked flyer, and he can just keep sending caution to the wind because he knows he's going to have a great start in this race.
And how about Riley Thompson, Finian? He's only had a couple starts in this series. Think back to Sebring, ran pretty well there. He's sitting 11th right now, and again, remember that the liveries are denoted. The white-based liveries are the new drivers this season. The ones with the black paint schemes are returning from the 2019 season, but Thompson, right out of the gate, has been pretty impressive.
Yeah, that his last start, Sebring was his first start in this series. Did extremely well there, better than I think we both thought. We knew that Riley was a fast driver, but he even outperformed our own expectations that we had from him. He's doing really well. Again, just coming into the middle of the season and running up there with pretty much all those guys up in the front of the field, sitting 11th at the moment, but you expect him to improve here as he's coming near the back part of the track.
So we'll cover some bases before we get to the racing here tonight. Remember that it's 2 20-minute races, so we'll have 2 separate races separated by a very short break. We're going to grid race 2 by the finishing order of race number 1. We want to thank again our sponsors, Level Up Racing School, Rick Motec High Performance Sim Racing Equipment, and Winding Road Racing. Again, if you're not familiar with the SPEC MX-5 Sim Racing Challenge. It is a championship hosted within the iRacing.com racing simulator. So you go to iRacing.com, get yourself signed up, and make sure that you're checking in on the SPEC MX-5 Challenge website, which the link is in the video description. If you want to sign up for the, hopefully this will be a 21 season. I have nothing to confirm yet, but if you want to compete in it, you got to check out the SPEC MX-5 Challenge website at the link in the video description. So watching Riley Thompson make his way around, currently 9th. He jumped up a couple spots. Thomas Bresci as well up into 8th. And Chris Taylor, Ismail Basso, and Chris Henn, DJ Henn in the 33. We know him as Postman. He wasn't able to run last week because of a wheel issue. He's back this week and running in 5th.
Yeah, Chris is looking super fast. Ken just jumped above him though. But Chris is always fast. He just always seems to run into trouble during the race. So hopefully that's I just threw out an opposite commentator's curse just now. So it was a great race.
I don't know if that's how that works, DJ. I've never been able to do it the opposite.
All my willpower is going for Chris to have a great race right now.
So Chris Henn heads down into turn number 4. Let's stay on board here for just a little bit of a lap to kind of get an idea of what it looks like. The corner that's coming up here, Finian, a sharp downhill left-hander. That's on the carousel. We were talking about this pre-race. The carousel flattens out a lot. There is a little bit of banking here, but it all goes away at corner exit because it has to join with the drag strip, which you'll see behind Chris Henn here. And the problem with that is that the car wants to push big time every time you leave that corner.
Yeah, I know. In a corner like that, typically you get a lot more banking. You think of the carousel that's at Watkins, Glen, or even more famous than that, the carousel that's at the Nürburgring. How it has so much banking to guide the car through the corner. Again, it's really flat here at Sonoma. It makes it a little bit awkward to navigate, but while it's awkward to navigate, it's also really tricky to get right. And I think you're going to definitely see the best drivers in this field really come out of that corner with a lot of speed and carrying a lot of momentum, which is so crucial in the MX-5.
And it's flat in the infield, but sorry to cut you off there, DG. Flat in the infield, but over 120 feet of elevation change over the course of this lap. A very dynamic facility.
You see the way Chris is just manhandling that car through the S's? He's showing a lot of confidence in his driving tonight.
Let's go back and take a look at that through the S's here. And this is really this corner here where you have to climb up onto these curbs to make time. Look at him climb that curb there, DJ. That's how you go fast around here in an MX-5.
Yeah, for sure. The curbs are really important, and knowing which ones you can attack and which ones you got to stay away from is part of the game here around Sonoma. But that S's has a really good flow to it, and it leads you on to the best passing opportunity. So if you're good at it, you're going to be defended from the people behind you, and you're going to give yourselves opportunity to attack in front of you. If that's a part of the track you struggle at, you're going to have a long night.
Yeah, we got Robert Hartley here, though, looking at on screen. He's just recently jumped out the pole after improving his time by a few thousandths of a second. It's extremely close near the front of the field. In fact, Paul Darling and Steve Focaccia have actually tied on the timesheets, running the exact same time to the thousandth of a second.
Yeah, it doesn't get much closer than that, huh, Finian?
No, it really doesn't.
Even the top, what is that, 6 all the way to Chris Henn, it's only 2/10 between all of those drivers, and that's only because Hartley went almost a 10th faster than Jonathan White. It's less than a 10th between second and 6th place.
Yeah, the time's extremely tight. You're up, sorry.
I was just gonna say, it's pretty tight for the entire field. We have less than 1 second separating 1st to 18th, DJ. How close is that? That's pretty darn close, especially in a car that's this low powered on a lap this long. Just less than a second separating 18 drivers. That is immense.
Right, that's just a testament to the skill level of the drivers in this series. When you see that many drivers that close to each other, it's just because they're fully extracting what's capable out of that car around this racetrack. The closer you get to the top, the closer the times are going to be.
Really impressive. We have about 1 minute and 20 seconds left in qualifying. Then we're going to rack up the field, stack them up, and turn them loose for 20 minutes. Then we'll set them for a second race based on their finishing position for another 20 minutes, and that will be the completion of round number 8. The final round of the season will be in 2 weeks' time. That will be at Circuit of the Americas in Austin, Texas, and that is also where the site of the prize will be for the championship winner, should they choose that event. I think you can choose from a couple different invitationals. But DJ, you get to run this weekend at Road Atlanta, so let's talk a little bit more about that. I know you've got some experience racing in Grid Life Touring Cup. You've also owned an MX-5 in the past. Your thoughts on your first opportunity to drive one of these cars for real at the racetrack in Braselton, Georgia this weekend?
You know, I'm just super excited to drive the same thing that 15 other competitors are driving. So far, there's 16 people signed up for the event, and if I know racers, they wait for everything to be last minute. So I'm expecting even a little bit more. But I mean, 16 cars is a really big field, especially when everybody's driving the same thing. And like I said, that is the thing I'm looking most forward to is the pack racing. You know, on iRacing, my favorite thing to race is the Miatas because it's close, tight-knit pack racing. You're working together. It's Kyle, what do you call it? The co-opetition?
Co-opetition.
Yeah, co-opetition. And I just love that style of racing. And I've never done it before, so I'm prepared to learn a whole lot this weekend, and I think that's what I'm most excited about. Is I know I'm going into the weekend and I'm gonna learn a ton. I don't necessarily think that I'm just gonna go in there and just crush faces. I mean, it'd be a pleasant surprise if that's what happens, but I just know that going into that weekend and leaving, I'm gonna be a better driver leaving that weekend, and I am super excited to leave that weekend being a better driver.
And I think you're also kind of taking over the social media this weekend as well, DJ. So if you're interested in following DJ's real world excursion after winning this championship last year, you can follow the SPEC MX-5 Challenge, Facebook, Twitter, and I'm sure there's probably other things that you're going to be on this weekend as well.
I probably won't be touching the Twitter, but if you follow the Facebook page and probably the Instagram, I'm going to be doing kind of like a driver point of view, like what it's like to be an invitational driver with Winding Road Racing and SPEC MX-5, just because it's going to be an adventure, and I'm taking you with me, so come on board. All
right, well, let's start up here tonight. We got a pace lap to complete, but let's roll through our starting grid here, Finian. On the front row tonight, going to be Robert Hartley in the 0-3 out of the Carolinas, and Jonathan White a long way from home in the virtual confines of California. He rolls off in second.
Moving back to row number 2, we got Paul Darling lining up in the 55, sitting in third. Next to him, Steve Fakachi going to line up in the 51 in fourth place.
Back in row number 3, Ken Ausiel, points leader out of Pennsylvania in the number 94. He starts 5th. Luke Pfeiffer, home race for him, starts 6th in the 0-6.
Chris Hahn going to be lining up from New York, the other side of the country, in 7th place in the 33. Next to Thomas Bresci, the 24, going to line up in 8th.
Ismael Basso starts 9th out of California in the number 40, and Chris Taylor out of New England starts 10th in the 53.
Back in 11th is going to be Riley Thompson, the 56. Definitely want to keep an eye on this driver really quick so far. Same thing with Borden, lining up next to him in 12th.
Jack Sanchez starts in 13th alongside Mitchell Peak out of Canada in the 14th place, number 21.
Lining up in 15 is going to be Kevin Zhu, lined up in the 43 machine. Gustavo Brigado going to line up in the 11 car in 16th.
In 17th, Alexander Lekowitz in the number 16 car, home race for him, and Sam Scott in the 18th place, number 98.
Justin Hall going to line up in 19th in the 64 car. Next to Brian Stone in the 30, going to line up in 20th.
In 21st place, Kurt Crum out of the 07, and Drew Reinhardt in the 69 car. He starts 22nd.
Back another row in 23rd is going to be Brian Chabelski, lined up in the 12 machine. Max Bagan going to line up in 24th in the 89 car.
25th place going to be Corentin Dubois out of California in the 76. John D. Allen starts 26th out of Ohio.
And rounding out your field is going to be Scott McIntyre in the 01 car, and that'll complete your field of 27 cars here at Sonoma.
A lot of cars here, DJ. Going to be very, very busy in the mid-pack, but up front, who you got winning this thing? Robert Hartley on pole, and qualifying was his weak point earlier in the season. He's got that problem solved.
Yeah, he figured it out. Also, Hartley was one of the drivers that took a win here last year at Sonoma, and I know driving against him, he is very solid here. He's very tough to beat.
Head down into the carousel. This is a really tricky corner to get right. We're going to have to do it about 11 times here in both races. So 22 laps total down the hill and onto the back straightaway, joining up on the drag strip. See the cars warming up the tires and taking one last look at the weather information. Pretty cool conditions here, Finian. I would expect the track surface to be a whole lot hotter than 80 degrees, so going to be pretty easy to drive on, I would assume.
Yeah, drivers are going to be loving it. It's going to be pretty cool here, considering it is the California sun. As you're saying, expecting the temperature to be closer to 100 degrees, but those extra 20 degrees are going to matter a lot, especially with the handling on a flat track like Sonoma on some of these corners.
Hey, what has good handling is the pace car. It just took off through the hairpin there, and everyone's trying to catch back up to it. But double file about, I don't know, about 15 rows deep. As we come on through, the S is a very high-speed section, going to be dancing the car on the edge of control and using every little bit of curbing around here. This is a place where you can really hammer the apex curbs. They don't have a lot of ripple profile to them, so you can really get up on them and use them. And then turn number 10, which we're heading into right here. This is a corner that A lot of drivers will run wide on. In bigger cars, these MX-5s will handle very nicely through here. Then down to turn number 11, the hairpin at Sonoma Raceway. This is a great passing zone. We're going to see maybe someone go for the win here tonight. SPEC MX-5 Sim Racing Challenge from Sonoma, California. The penultimate round of the season will conclude it and crown a champion in 2 weeks' time in Austin, Texas. But tonight, everybody going for a win for the second to last time this season. Robert Hartley, Jonathan White, Paul Darling, Fakachi, and more lined up on the front row. Green flag flies, and we're racing in Sonoma for the SPEC MX-5 Sim Racing Challenge.
And they're already getting single file for that first turn. That's an important thing to do because you want to start breaking that draft early in the race and separate yourself so there's less people to contend with. Ken already jumping up a spot.
Into turn number 1 and just trying to avoid running into each other here, Finian. It's so congested, but everyone's done a really good job so far staying off of each other.
Yeah, especially considering we're a double foul now, heading through turn 3A and B. Up the hill they go. And these cars flying to the other side of the track. Got to be careful, give each other some room. We see the car go flying offline, but it looks like we're still good.
I think that was the 42 of Michael Borden. He's going to go the long way around into turn 4. And DJ, turn 4 is a lot tighter than it looks, and it's very easy to overcook that braking zone.
Yeah, that's it's downhill and it's off camber, so it's real easy to miss the apex there. And going wide is bad. It really delays your throttle, and yeah, that's just a really easy place to mess up. It like suckers you into making mistakes. You know, you were talking about the pace car earlier, and last year this race. Oh no, a car went around. Who is that?
Kevin Zhu.
Kevin Zhu.
The 43, he's gone around. I wonder if there was maybe a touch or some contact there. So let's go take a look. And he might have just gotten loose again. Cold tires on these cars make him a little bit tricky to hang on to. Might have gotten the left front tire in the dirt. No, just got the car sideways and just got behind the steering there, DJ.
Yeah, I think that's a cold tire issue. I mean, luckily to him, everybody did a great job dodging him. He's got a lot of work to do for the next 18 minutes or so. But as I was saying, the pace car is because it just goes 60 miles an hour no matter what. It's like on rails, and that would be a thing I would joke about in the beginning of races last year to like ease the tension. I would always remind everybody how ridiculous the pace car was on Sonoma. So that's a little bit of an inside joke for all the SPEC MX-5 competitors. I'm curious if they carried the tradition on at Sonoma.
For a little bit of contact, car got shoved out wide. I think that was the 98 of Sam Scott that might have gotten a bit of a push from behind, but so far, Finian, everyone's kind of sorted themselves out. Only one spin and no major contact, but Scott McIntyre is going to go around in turn number 11, and this might just be on throttle too early right there. Just gets on throttle and gets behind the steering.
Yeah, we're seeing cold tires catch out on 2 different drivers on the first lap. I'm sure once they get through the second lap, tires should be more or less up to temp, but again, it's just managing yourself to this corner. DJ was saying earlier, it's a tricky track, and you're seeing exactly why. The car just can come out from under you if you're not careful.
You know, if you're some of these drivers behind Hartley, you might, because this is a track that's super tough on the front tires, and you might find yourself just kind of hanging in his draft, like maybe braking a little early. I'm curious, like Ken Husil right now, I think 4th is not quite the place you want to be. You probably want to get into 3rd, but then you could play the waiting game and try to have a strong car at the end of the race.
Fighting with Paul Darling here, going to look drivers left into turns 6 and 7, go the long way around. That's a hard pass to make out there, so Darling's going to try to shoot forward and hang on to 4th, or 3rd rather, and he will for now. But passing zone, really through the S's, DJ, only if you're desperate. It's very difficult to get side by side and not wreck each other here.
Yeah, you know, if you're side by side in the beginning of the S's, you can kind of bully them into to being offline, and that might set up something for where we see the cars on screen right now. And if you can pester them going into this right-hand turn, you might be able to finish it by the time you get to the hairpin here at the end of the straight. I don't think you're going to get past the car in the S's, but you can certainly start the pass in the S's and then finish it down here.
Yeah, looking at Corentin Duval and Mitchell Peak got in an incident. This happened. There's 2 separate incidents there.
Mitchell Peak went around kind of all by his lonesome and then swung back into the racetrack and tagged a couple more cars. And he just got absolutely obliterated by trying to see what car that was.
That was Corentin Dubois.
Corentin Dubois in the 76, who kind of the worst end of that. Here's a look from on board. Oh man, just unsighted right into the back of that car. That's
in the driver's seat there. It would be hard to see that car.
Right, and even with the caution flag, you know that there's a hazard, but it's hard to see with everyone in the way. So unfortunately, going to be probably day over for Corentin Dubois and for Mitchell Peak, at least competitively. But they'll have race 2 to fight back.
Yeah, fighting through the field's always a fun time. It just take a mental reset and go, well, I'm gonna go have some fun.
DJ, I don't think everyone thinks the same as you do in that department.
Well, you know what? That's what I aim for. I'm you're probably steaming around and like maybe like rage eat some popcorn or something, and then come back and with a clear mind, or maybe a mind set out for revenge and destruction. But regardless, you're gonna have some fun.
Rage eat some popcorn is the new one here tonight. Here's 11th place, Michael Borden attacking the 53 of Chris Taylor and the 40 of Ismael Basso. Ooh, Taylor took a look up the inside of turn 7, and way out to the edge of the racetrack goes the 40. Took the on-ramp there up the side of the curbing and took a jump, but he's through to 9th as Basso.
Yeah, that was crazy because he just didn't want to let off the throttle, but almost went flying out onto the grass, and he's still going very hard. Basso is through the S's, and you see Borden again riding on board with him as he's trying to follow through and get past these guys. And we're seeing that for the most part, compared to these guys' starting positions, they've only moved up a spot or two. No one really has gained too many spots. Like, just actually looking at Kirk Crum, he's gone from 21st to 14th.
From on the move right now, but kind of all by himself. He's going to take out a cone, and the cones are actually a topic of discussion here, DJ, because on corner entry here, you've got these cones that are typically over by the pit entry. The problem is you can get those stuck underneath your cars, and they're not a whole lot of fun to get out from underneath you once you get them stuck.
The bigger problem is the best braking point is that first cone. So if you got some jerk ahead of you that wipes out your braking marker, now you're braking on memory rather than a distinct point.
Here's 12th place Jack Sanchez with Riley Thompson right in behind him. But for the race lead, Hartley continues to lead this race here, Finian, but Jonathan White has not left his rear bumper.
No, and I think we're going to see these guys pretty much run nose to tail until I think the final few laps. Deidre is saying, I think really the best strategy is just kind of riding the coattails of the guy in front of you. I let Hartley do all the work, and White can just kind of use the draft to kind of bring himself back without working the tires to work, because he's going to have to save them for later, because he needs those tires to as fresh as they can, as fresh as he can to get around Hartley, and it's still going to be a tough thing to do later on.
Yeah, those front tires, they allow you to just twist the car around that corner just a little bit faster, and that means you can get on power just a little bit more. You're never going to really worry about the rear tires. The cars don't really have enough power for that. So you're really just trying to baby those front tires there, as we see Paul Darling take a huge chunk of curb. You're really just trying to baby the front tires so you can get the angle of the car shooting out of the corner sooner, and that will lead on to passing opportunities down the straight.
Look at Paul Darling, 4 tires in the air at the exit curb there out of turn 7.
That's one way to save them.
Yeah, I mean, you're not scrubbing them if you're flying through the air.
Genius.
I think he's found the key here. If only you could do that always. See the cone go flying there on corner entry. Front 5 all stacked up. Look who's joined the party. Chris Henn in 5th in the number 33. Just at the tail end. I'm not sure he quite has the pace to be up in this top 4, but he's going to hang on. And the draft and the accordion effect, Finian, going to keep him tucked up pretty tight.
Absolutely, and he's looking to get a win. Last time he was on track actually racing was he won the race at Laguna Seca, so looking to get another one here as we see a spin down in the hairpin, the final hairpin.
Oh, there's 2 cars.
Allen and another car involved as well.
That's Max Bagman in the 89, so he's already also wrecked. So let's go back and take a look at how this happened here. I'm going to assume that they may be touched here on corner entry. Oh yeah, from a long way back, the 89 just dove in there and couldn't get the car stopped. And DJ, that's just a classic outbraking maneuver that just didn't go quite right.
Yeah, that's. I think that's a classic. That first cone got knocked away, so he had nothing to brake at.
Who's through to 3rd? Ken Alseal got by Paul Darling, and so did Chris Henn. So Darling goes back from 3rd to 5th in just 2 corners and moved the 94 to 3rd, Chris Henn to 4th as the front 2 start to eke away just a little bit.
This is from Darling running wide in turn 4, cost him so many spots, and it's gonna be hard to get those spots back considering the guys that he's racing up ahead with Chris Henn and Halseal. They're not gonna give up those spots easily. They're looking up ahead at 2nd, White and Hartley in 1st place.
Here's Ismael Basso trying to defend from Michael Borden into turn number 6 and backed out at the last second, but Ismael Basso's going to give him the space, and Borden going to take it and run with it on the inside. And a drag race all the way out to the exit curb again. Basso's going to hang on.
Yeah, I'm surprised Borden just had no speed coming out of the hairpin. I'm surprised he didn't push the issue more. We've seen him be pretty aggressive as a driver. I'm surprised he didn't fight more with Basso. That cost him a spot. He's back now to 11th.
You know, Borden needs a good night tonight. He's in a little bit of a points battle with Paul Darling before the drops. Haven't figured out the drops myself personally, but you know, that 3rd spot, it's a really important spot going into the last race because it means you do have a chance to win the overall thing. You just need something to kind of mishap happen to 1st place and 2nd place. but you do have a chance to win in third. Fourth, it's starting to get a little less likely.
Battling with Chris Taylor on corner exit. He crossed him over, had to run up the inside, but door gets slammed shut. He'll have to try again as we run up through turn 1 and then turn 2, which is the right-hander here. And you can charge this corner so much here, DJ, because the gravity assists you as you see Basso run a little bit wide. You don't have to lean on the brakes quite so much because the uphill slows the car down.
Yeah, as you're heading into the hill, the car's compressing into the hill, so you can change the angle of attack because you know you're going to have that little extra grip. But you got to get a lot of the turn done before you get to the crest of the hill. Borden giving him a little boop. You got to get a lot of the turning done before you get to the crest of the hill because then your car's light and there's not going to be a whole lot of anything happening as the car's floating in the air.
Well, we know that Paul Darling's been pretty good at flying through the air tonight, so maybe the hovercraft back in 5th place will be able to make that work as we see this battle continue for 9th place. Up in front, it's still Robert Hartley. He's led every lap so far. Then it's White, Houseel, Hen, Darling, the rest of the top 5. But this scrap for 9th getting really, really wild as here comes Riley Thompson to the 56th end of the group, Finian.
Yeah, you can see these guys starting to actually kind of, Basso's actually kind of holding them up. There's a big separation of 3.8 seconds between Basso and Resi up in 8th place. And they've kind of formed their own little pack here behind Basso with Taylor, Borden, Thompson, and Sanchez all running in line.
Michael Borden sweeping out a little bit wide here into turn number 10. And you see the 53 a little bit off apex there. That's going to give Borden a really good run down here. But on cars with ABS, DJ, how much confidence does that give you in comparison to a car without ABS? Is that a helpful thing or a hurtful thing that you can't lock the brakes up?
I think it's a helpful thing on figuring out what the actual braking point of the track is, especially if the car doesn't have good feedback when you're getting on the brakes. iRacing doesn't really do that, but in real life, cars without ABS, they'll have like a little bit of, without ABS, they'll have like a little bit of a wiggle right before lockup. So that's how you know, okay, this is how hard I can brake the car, and then you'll dial in your braking zone before that. On an ABS car, it's extremely easy. You just mush the pedal until the thing vibrates, and that's how hard the car can brake.
Really interesting discussion. You actually, in this car, I think that this car in iRacing, after it got the new tire model a few months ago, it has been such an amazing increase in the dynamicism, especially compared to last season. And I also feel like you can really feel the ABS a lot more through the wheel than you used to be able to in this car. So it's made it a lot more drivable. It also drives a lot happier, Finian, and it really likes to hang the tail out quite a bit. It used to be kind of an understeer machine. It's styled out a little bit. It still pushes if you give it too much throttle, but you can hang it out a little bit on corner exit, which makes it a joy to drive.
Yeah, well, it's happy to drive. It matches the kind of smile on the front of the car with the grill.
It is a very happy car.
It's a happy car. Into turn number 6. Basso getting defensive on Chris Taylor.
These guys are having an awesome race back here. It's the front's kind of looking real tame, but this is real scrappy back in 9th and 10th here.
Top group of cars has been pretty tame, but that 9th place battle, starting with the 40 of Ismael Basso, they're having a great time. There's a couple more fights throughout the field, but the middle of the field is really where all the action is right now. About 7 minutes worth of racing remaining, and when they hit the start-finish line, it'll be about 4 laps left before we take a very quick break and line them up to go once more tonight. Then we'll crown our 2 winners and see Riley Thompson have a big lunge up the inside of Borden. Can he get the car slowed down? He will. He's going to have a run on the 42 on corner exit.
But Borden's going to have the inside going into turn 1. I think Borden's going to be able to, Riley just lines in there. That was a good attempt from Riley, but you kind of have to get a little bit more overlap so you can take the inside away going into turn 1.
Yeah, and you just lose all your corner speed being so tight to the apex of the corner. We saw it with Thompson, but what we are seeing now that Borden's being backed into some more traffic as he makes a bit of a mistake coming through turn 2. Now he's going to go defensive as Thompson's got again a run on him through turn 3.
Big curb hop in turn 3 on that left curb, then pressing the hill, and the car really gets light there, doesn't want to rotate, so you got to have all your cornering done by the time you get over the top of that. Then the run down into 4, and then now it's just sort of single file until you get to 7, and then you can really have a lunge up the inside there. But Thompson has been sort of stuck here today. He's not running quite as well as he was at Sebring, Finian, so I'm not sure if it's just a combination of the racetrack. As DJ said, you have to practice this one a lot more, but this has been a pretty challenging race for Thompson to gain any ground.
Yeah, and again, it's really been a trouble for a lot of people to gain ground. Pretty much the entire top 13 drivers have all started in the top 13. They haven't really moved. They maybe gained 1 or 2 spots this entire race for the majority. Guys in the back have been able to gain spots with some of the other drivers wrecking or spinning off the track. But yeah, there's not been a whole lot of movement for the guys near the front, except for Kirk Crump.
Yeah, he actually stalled out in 14th. He got all those passes done in the first 2 laps, has been stuck there ever since. Back up front, though, battle for second heating up. Here comes Ken Alseal on Jonathan White.
Yeah, Ken's been putting the pressure on the last couple laps. I've been paying attention to him, and Jonathan White actually made a move.
Oh, here he goes
into 7.
That was Chris Henn lunging up the inside of Ken Alseal, gave a bit of a shot to the right rear quarter panel of that car, and it doesn't look like there's any damage. But that was just trying to stick the car in a hole that wasn't really there, DJ.
Oh, up ahead, and Jonathan White going to try to throw it up the inside into turn 1, almost forced the gap there for Hartley, but he's now starting to make some moves as the race winds down.
You know, I think these drivers must have got a little offended when I said it was tame up front, because they're kind of kicking the flame up a little bit right now. They're turning up the wick.
I'd say so. It's burning right now as they head up through the hills here, over the curbs in turn 3, then down to 4. Hartley with that kind of failed attempt. Look at Alseal in the dirt. Big lunge up the inside of the 22, but that was sort of out of control that whole time. Got off in the dirt, and so does Chris Henn now, kind of off-roading it, mowing the grass.
Yeah, Ken was really starting to overdrive the car through the first sector. He left tire marks coming out of every single corner trying to catch up to these guys. And again, talking about turning up the wick, look at Paul Darling now. He's trying to hold off Chris Henn, who's trying to get that spot back.
Oh, that's a dangerous spot for Chris Henn to be in right there. He keeps it clean, though. He was an inch off that rear quarter panel. And they're not really losing the guys in front so far, even going side by side through the carousel. I think Paul's going to make this stick. And Ken, he was in this position a couple laps ago, like a little off of Jonathan White and Robert Hartley, but he caught them right back. Ken might have the fastest car on track right now. He's just got to figure out a way to make it stick.
He's got to get by 2 drivers. I was a little bit surprised, Finian, to see Jonathan White take that lunge through turn number 1, because that was really not a passing opportunity there, and still he stuck the nose up there, and it actually sort of lost him time. So is that something you're going to learn from, or is Jonathan White going to try to do this in an unorthodox place to maybe catch Hartley off guard?
I think he was trying to just force Hartley into a mistake by making a kind of lunge in an unpredictable corner of the track. I think he was trying to catch Hartley off guard. Didn't really succeed in that department, but he's got pretty much back into the 0-3 to work on him here, as these guys are going to come past the last 2 laps to go.
I mean, one of the things that if you do something unpredictable to the driver in front, you make them think, you make them, question whether you're going to be there in other corners as well. It's kind of a good way to pressure them into future mistakes just by doing something a little unorthodox. It's kind of like you're running around the room with your hands above your head yelling, "I'm crazy." Whether you're crazy or not, you look crazy. So you're gonna treat that guy like he's crazy.
I mean, hey, you've said that before, and it's a method that sort of works. Is when you're in the race car, you're going, I don't want to be around that guy, and you're going to give him a little bit more space, and that little bit of space is all White's going to need to get by. Chris Taylor, Ismael Basso.
Chris Taylor sliding off the track as he makes contact with Ismael Basso and going to go flying off at turn 4, going to lose a ton of spots.
I wonder if there was a touch there, Finian. I heard that there was.
Oh, yeah.
And let's go back and have a brief look. This is at the exit of 3 and went up the outside. Kind of got door slammed off there, and big understeer, couldn't get the car stopped.
Could you get a different camera view? Maybe he was hanging the left tires in the dirt, and that's kind of why they touched?
No, he got up there, and Basso didn't quite give him enough room. But that's not really a play. I mean, I don't know, DJ. That was a tight place to try to put the car.
I mean, you got to put the pressure on somewhere. I mean, to me, that's Basso giving him a car width minus an inch. That's my opinion on that.
Oh man, yeah, that was really tight. And then he gets the left sides on the grass and couldn't stop and try to get the brakes to engage, and did, but not quite fast enough. So he drops all the way back to 14th, and that will cost him some time. So yeah, a little bit tight squeeze there by Ismael Basso and an opportunistic move there by Chris Taylor, but either way, didn't work out for either of them. Up front, we're coming back to the white flag as the cone goes flying over the pit wall. Hartley, White, Alseal, 1, 2, 3, then Darling and Henn right behind if something goes wrong. 1 lap to go here at Sonoma.
Yeah, White's really starting to run out of time now. 1 lap to go to try to make and get this move done. I'm curious if he's been saving up anything. He's just been quiet this whole time, and now he's going to show his true pace, but he's only got 1 more lap to do it.
Up the hill into the braking zone for turn number 2. He's right there, climbs the curb, almost all 4 tires on it as they head down into 3. So where is the passing opportunity here for Jonathan White, DJ, and where is Ken Alseal going to get by both?
I don't know if you're going to get by both, especially since race 1's finishing order sets the grid for race 2. I don't know if the drivers are willing to risk it, especially when you're thinking about the championship as a whole. You got Ken Husil and Jonathan White at the top of the board. The only thing that would take them away from that spot is a catastrophe. So I think you might see them play it a little safe. Maybe we could see something from Paul Darling, and definitely see something from Chris Hennies, as I think he's side by side with Paul right now. Yeah, look, overlapping mirrors, changing the angle of them, heading toward turn 7
and
here.
all the way out in the dirt was Paul Darling trying to hang that car out. He's going to defend into turn number 6, but Husil made a mistake in the braking zone for turn 4, and that's going to make it a 2-man race up at the front. The 2 tan-colored cars, Hartley the leader, Jonathan White in second. Jonathan White has not yet tasted the lead, and he's so close right now as they come up over the crest here in turn number 9, and now down through 10. They're going to have a couple corners left, but White is pretty far back. I'm not sure it's going to happen.
He's got to send a Hail Mary here through the final hairpin if he wants to have any shot here. Ooh, Hartley slowed up quite a bit for this corner, and White's still pushing.
He's there. You have to make a move.
No, not quite going to get there, and I think...
All right, he's being tame.
Yep, not quite going to get there. Checkered flag waving for the SPEC MX-5 Sim Racing Challenge. Drag race back to the line, but no power for the 22. Robert Hartley leads from flag to flag in race number 1. White not too far back, then Husil 3rd, Darling 4th, Chris Henn 5th. Luke Pfeiffer in 6th. There's some battles going on deeper in the field. How about this drag race? Riley Thompson and the 42 of Michael Borden. That is for 10th spot. Here they come to the line. 42 is going to get it by a nose. Behind them, Jack Sanchez, Kurt Crum. They're going to line up 12th and 13th. Still more, Gustavo Pergato coming across the line. Dead heat there with I think that was the 64 of Justin Hall. He will grab 16th spot. But leader to second was 0.2 of a second. Checkered flag there for Robert Hartley. So he will pick up race number 1 and did it pretty easily there, DJ.
Yeah, you know what's cool about as you're cycling back, it's like there's good race after good race. It didn't matter what position it was for. There was, 7 side-by-sides as you were cycling back through the field. Everybody had a good race, it looks like, on this one.
There's a look at your race results. Again, your top 10, Michael Borden coming out 10th. Chris Henn 5th, and all of our front runners that we typically expect are there. But race 2 coming up in just a few minutes' time, and we're going to get to do this all over again. But Robert Hartley won that race. He did it fairly easily. Jonathan White was pretty tame there, DJ, but what does he have to do differently next time to beat Hartley?
I think he has to just be a little bit more aggressive and try to force mistakes. Hartley's not going to make mistakes just driving around, just doing laps. You kind of got to throw a little bit of a wrench into his game plan with a nose there, a pop out here, like I'm going to late break you. Like you gotta grab the crazy dial and turn it up a little bit.
All right, well, Crazy Dial's going to get turned up here in just a few minutes. We're going to take a very short break. You'll hear from our sponsor, Rick Motec. We'll be right back. Welcome back live to Winding Road Magazine and the SPEC MX-5 Sim Racing Challenge. We've just completed our first of 2 races tonight, and we're about to begin our second race of the evening, another 20-minute round here on Winding Road Magazine. Again, if you're wondering who we are Sim TV, a sim racing broadcasting group based out of the New York area. My name is Kyle Heyer. I'm joined by Finian Dcunha. We've been doing this for a while. We've got our own YouTube channel at youtube.com/SimTV Broadcasting. Link is in the video description. We stream most days a week. Got Formula 1, NASCAR, everything in between. But on Wednesdays, it's SPEC MX-5 Sim Racing Challenge Night, Finian. Warm-up almost complete as we're about ready to launch into our second race of the evening. Your thoughts on race 1 and who do you got winning for race number 2?
I mean, it's kind of hard to not pick Hartley. I mean, we're clearly seeing the passing is troublesome, which we kind of expected going in. I was surprised that we didn't even see White at least get past at least one time. I was kind of anticipating him to find some way to get past Hartley, but I think maybe, I guess he waited too long. And I was saying earlier that I think it would have been ideal to save his tires and wait for the end, but maybe that's not the ideal strategy. I think maybe he might have to try to go for a pass earlier on to see what he's got in store, if he's learned anything from race 1 to carry over into the second race here.
We saw him try a pass up into turn number 1, and we knew that wasn't going to work, but maybe he learned that if he can do that earlier in the race, he can pull off a move like that. With 10 seconds left in warm-up, we're about to drop down to line up our grid for the second race of the evening. We'll also go over some weather information and once more talk about our sponsors. And this is such a cool opportunity. Again, if you're an iRacing member, or even if you're not an iRacing member, you can become an iRacing member and get your D license. And then you can apply on the SPEC MX-5 Challenge website for the 2021 season and get your opportunity to drive in this series. And if you win the championship, you'll get all expenses paid to race one of these cars, or at least drive one of these cars, or get a track day with full team support thanks to Winding Road Magazine, of course, Brickmotech High Performance Sim Racing Equipment Group, as well as Level Up Racing School, who's been providing a lot to this series. So thanks again to our partners. As we go down to the starting grid here, Finian, on the left-hand side of the screen, you're going to see our lineup. You got Hartley winning this thing again, but Seal is in third, and even though White was the one that ran second most of that race, I got to pick 94 as the one winning this race.
Yeah, problem with Ken is that in the last race, I don't know, again, if it was him just burning up his stuff too much, but in the end, he was really over driving the car, and I think the car was just not responding to it. He was just really lacking grip. He was understeering out of a lot of these corners, so I'm not sure if he's also learned something that he can carry over into the second race, but he kind of seems to be struggling to move up any more than third place.
You know, to jump on what you guys were talking about earlier, the things that John has to do to beat Hartley this race, because I think, in my opinion, Hartley is definitely the one to beat. He has to experiment more. He's got to gather intel throughout the race. He didn't really make any moves except just like 2 pokes that I can think of throughout the race. So he didn't have a lot of intel on exactly how Hartley was going to deal with what his defense would look like, where he'd be weak, where he would defend strong. He didn't have any of that information.
Well, he's going to have to figure it out. You got 20 minutes to get it sorted. Again, another 11 laps will be what this race is. Again, a 2.5-mile racetrack, lots of elevation. It's also pretty narrow at points, and that makes passing difficult. But compared to racetracks like Sebring or Road Atlanta or even Watkins, Glen, which ran earlier in the season, this is definitely one of the harder racetracks to make passes on, Finian. So this is not a track at all where I think you can wait to the last lap. I think you got to do it way sooner than that and probably start trying to figure it out right from the drop of the green flag.
Yeah, and I thought even too when I was saying that, I thought White was going to wait till later on to make a pass. I thought he would have started, poking prodding a little more around 3-4 laps to go, but he kind of waited to the last lap and had nothing left to give. So if I was him, I would try to pass as soon as I can with the tires fresh as possible earlier on in the race, and then kind of try to keep Hartley in behind. It's again going to be easier said than done, but he's got to try something different.
Well, also drivers in the midfield that had a heck of a battle. Ismael Basso, Michael Borden, Riley Thompson, Jack Sanchez, Kurt Crum. They had a scrapping fight in race number 1 and had a lot of fun. They're going to get to do it all over again and maybe advance some more. Kurt Crum, remember where he started in race 1, 21st, ended up finishing in 13th. And now he can maybe gain some more spots and climb up a little higher in the field. And that's what I like, DJ, about lining up race 2 by the finishing order of race 1 is you get to continue your progress from the first race.
Yeah, it's almost like a competition yellow where you kind of just stack them and re-rack them, as you say sometimes, and so that the race over the whole race it will spread out, but you just reset it and send it again.
You're lining up through the S's section where we saw one of our only big wrecks in the previous race, and that was Mitchell Peak involved in one of them, and the 76 of Corentin Dubois was also involved in a wreck. Other than that, just a couple spins and slides, nothing else major, which is always good to see. We got 26 cars on the racetrack. Only one that is not going to be here for the second race peak in 21. So lining up for the race for our final race of round 8 of the 2020 SPEC MX-5 Sim Racing Challenge. We'll conclude it all in 2 weeks at Circuit of the Americas in Austin, Texas. Ken Seal is the points leader going into that race. If he could win this one, it would certainly put him on a path to claim victory and a chance to drive one of these cars in the real world. He can do what he needs to do. As we feel pace car pulls off, rather, and we're going to head to another 11-lap, 20-minute race. Green flag flies, and we're racing again from Sonoma, California.
Oh, 3 wide, almost 4 wide in the mid pack there. It's not going down to single file as much as it was in the first time.
A little bit of wibbling and wobbling there in the mid pack there. DJ got really stacked up, but I think we made it so far.
Yeah, in the front, they're finally going single file. Ken Husiel still putting the pressure on John. He's got a little bit of a nose on him. I'm wondering if he's going to try to make that stick. John just shuts the door, says no. You're going to have to do that some other time, sir. Still 2 wide, almost 3 wide in the back here. It's going to get real scrappy heading into turn 4.
It's real tight down here. Oh, Finian, they're making me nervous, but they got through there okay.
Yeah,
I saw Luke Pepper absolutely send it over a curb trying to get to the inside of Steve Cacci. Wasn't able to get it done for the most part. The front guys single file. Ooh, Ken Seal went flying off of the corner off the apex. You see some great battles going on side by side here as Chris Henn now getting a great run off the final corner. Seal on the ground.
Oh, no!
Corner 33.
Oh, and Chris Henn got the short end of the stick there and absolutely obliterates the tire barrier at corner exit there. And you have to wonder, you know, that was just the slightest of mistake by the 94 of Ken Seal, but it's going to cost Chris Henn, and he had nothing to do with that. It was in the wrong place at the wrong time there, DJ.
Yeah, and
I think that would be a penalty.
Yeah, I was going to say, that's what I was saying. Oh, I think that's going to be a penalty for the 94, so it's also going to hurt him. He's going to probably have to drop back here in a little bit. I think the admins are looking at the moment, but yeah. Is
Ken's car driving straight?
Well, I know that Chris's is definitely not. I think Ken's is okay as it stands. So he's okay, but running third, and you have to wonder if the race control will make that call. And that's a tough one for me because it was so clearly a mistake, but it doesn't really matter. Chris Henn's race is pretty much over.
Right. I mean, as the driver of that car, it's your responsibility to keep the car under control. So, and I would say that Ken Husiel did not keep the car under control. So, I'm curious how Ryan Cobb will see that. But I mean, that kind of robbed us of a good battle because Chris was looking real fast in race 1, and he was slapping his lips to get past Ken there. And another, if Ryan puts down a penalty, it's kind of take away another potential race from us. So it's just it's a shame to see that all together. But I mean, Jonathan White and Robert Hartley are right back where they left off, and this great mid-pack battle is also right where it left off. So we still got some good racing going on.
Yeah, there'll be good racing throughout the field. Of course, Max Bagman in the 89, he's also turned around at the exit at turn 4. So he had bad luck in race 1, going to have it again here in race 2. However, with Seal potentially out of this, see a lot of cars off the racetrack at the exit of 5.
Guys, we're not on the rallycross course. They're all out there.
They do have a rallycross layout here at Sonoma, and it seems like everyone wants to take it.
I don't know, guys. I think Ken Husiel's car is hurt because that's not normally a place that you can get around, and Paul literally just drove right past Ken. So Ken might have some aero damage, or maybe the thing doesn't turn very good to one side, potentially to the left. That's why Paul got such a great run out of the carousel to pass Ken. So Ken might be in trouble with or without a penalty here.
You have to wonder if there's some damage to maybe the rear end of that car. Maybe the axles kind of got knocked out, or the rear suspension, because the front looks okay, but you have to look at the side of this race car. You see all that damage in the door. I'm worried about this area here. Hitting someone sideways like that, DJ, can often knock out that rear end and make the car kind of skew as you see him down the straightaway. It doesn't look like it's super straight. We got a bunch of issues. Huge crash at the corner exit at turn number 11. Car's upside down.
Uh-oh.
That's Jack Sanchez on his roof.
That's the big one. If this was NASCAR, they'd be saying it's the big one.
I mean, I've never seen a wreck that big here at Sonoma. Riley Thompson is involved. There's a whole bunch of cars in it. Let's go back and have a look here. Never seen a wreck this big.
With Riley Thompson.
Oh, this is a mess. Let's put our detective hats on, figure out how this unwound.
just drove into the wall, and then everyone stacked up on corner exit, and this just created a roadblock, and just got everybody stacked up in that. Nowhere for anybody. What happened to Thompson? He just drove into the wall.
Yeah, I'm hearing that was just a mistake from him.
Oh, that's a big mistake. We wanted about 10 cars in that.
Oh, guys, that's a mess.
That is
it's
a
such
mess.
a mess.
Yeah,
let's not look at that anymore.
I think it's one of the biggest wreck in this series.
Yeah,
So I think that might be the biggest wreck ever in the series.
Yeah.
and that was not
crazy.
Chris Taylor involved, Kevin Zhu, Drew Reinhardt, Riley Thompson, Jack Sanchez, Alexander Lekowitz, Gustavo Pregado, Max Pagman. A lot of cars in that one. But back up to the front, got a two-man breakaway right now, Hartley and White. And now without Paul Darling pressuring him, I think White's going to want a bit more space, DJ. But then when you're all by yourself, you might as well start trying stuff.
Yeah, you would try to extend the gap, and then you leave yourself a little bit of room to start poking and prodding, experimenting, trying to figure out where the cracks in Robert Hartley's armor are. And it's beautiful armor, guys. It's some might call it impenetrable, but Jonathan White's going to try to prove me wrong.
It's sort of funny how, again, with the Night Fox Designs guys ended up creating all these liveries for us, and it's kind of funny how everyone gets a distinct color. I think they're allowed one repeat, but it's just so funny to me that the two tan cars are the ones that have been up front all night long, and they blend in. It's like Sonoma camouflage here with all the dead grass. They fit right in.
You know, we'll have Steve Burbage put their faces on the hood of the car for the final round, so we definitely can't confuse them.
Like, who was it in NASCAR that did that at Daytona? It was, no, was it Benedetto? I thought it was, no, it was another guy. Maybe it was Benedetto.
I'm pretty sure it was the Benedetto for Old Spice.
Or either that or, what's his name? Corey LaJoie, I think it was.
I think that's life goals, guys, is your own face as a livery on your car.
Yeah, the funny part was that it was on the Ford Mustang and the mouth was the grill. It was really cool.
That is great.
Here's the funny thing. If you type in Corey LaJoie, the third thing that comes up is face car.
Here comes Jonathan White to look up the inside, and that was not a serious passing attempt there, DJ. That was just him getting out of the mirrors of Robert Hartley just to distract him. And that could work, but Robert Hartley's a tough nut to crack.
Yeah, I mean, when you do maneuvers like that, you might make them think that they're under attack, and if they were saving those front tires at all, they're thinking, oh, now's the time to use them, and you just back off and then snicker as they're late braking into that corner, using up that precious front tire resource. So that's another tactic you can use to try to get your opponent to burn his equipment up.
We started this race with 26 cars. There are 7 of them off of the racetrack right now after that big collision. One of them, Chris Henn, obviously involved in that lap 1 collision with Ken Seal, but no action seems to have been taken on that, so he might have gotten away with murder there than the 94. So that would, I don't know if it would have really massively affected his championship chances, but it wouldn't have helped. And he's going to sit in 4th, and looks like he'll be able to retain the spot.
Really lucky for him, as you were just saying, but I don't think he's gonna, even though he's lucky avoiding that, I don't think he's got a shot at getting the way. That car seems to be slow. Not entirely sure why. Definitely has some damage of some sort hurting his handling, but has not been on the same pace that he was in race 1. It seems like, if anything, Paul Darling catching up to these front 2.
22 Jonathan White a little bit wide in the exit at turn number 3, and there is curbing here on track out in some places, DJ, but it's pretty narrow, and you end up kind of dipping the tires off in the dirt once in a while.
Yeah, this is a track that's really easy to accumulate a lot of incident points. I haven't seen anybody get a black flag from that yet, so everybody's doing a really good job of being clean and accurate with their laps.
Run down to turn number 6. A bit of slipstream could help you here. It's not an immensely long straightaway. You're only doing about 100 miles an hour before the braking zone, but here comes Jonathan White again, stepping out of line and just distracting Hartley just enough to turn up underneath him, and there he goes, side by side for the race lead on corner exit. Drag race to the S's, but I think White's going to learn that that's a hard move to complete, trying to get the power down on the tight side there.
Yeah, it seemed like he had the traction out of the corner, but I don't know if he just didn't get up through the shifts fast enough or what it was, but just lost acceleration, and back and behind Hartley he will go.
And Paul Darling's currently catching these two. I was hanging out with Paul Darling this weekend at the SCCA time trial event, And Paul gave me the tidbit of information that he has never won a SPEC MX-5 race in the 2 seasons he's doing it. He is long overdue. He's always at the front.
This could be his night with these front two battling, and how late Jonathan White's been chucking it into the corner. This could be Paul Darling's night.
Yeah, I'm looking at Darling's stats, and yeah, that is true. So he's only finished second once, but he's finished third 6 times throughout both seasons. So I'm sure he really wants to change that. He doesn't want a 7th third place finish, I can imagine that.
He's always at the front. He's always fast. He just hasn't found himself on that top step of the podium.
Got 10 minutes left, about halfway through this race now as the field heads on through. And the closest battles are the ones at the front right now, but Jonathan White has been pretty tame. But how much of this is him being stuck back here versus hanging out back here, DJ? Do you think he's legitimately trying to get on by, or do you think it's all mental games up to the last 5 minutes?
I think he's trying. You know, the draft in these cars isn't as strong as you would expect it to be, and this track is pretty tough to pass at. I mean, we see him poking and prodding moves here and there. I don't think those are complete head fakes. I think he's trying to get by, but we might just be seeing the monster of Robert Hartley coming alive here at Sonoma Raceway.
Whoa! Really deep dive into turn number 6. Almost a touch there as they came on through.
It's opening the door for Paul Darling, though. Guys, I know I'm not supposed to root for somebody, but I'm kind of rooting for Paul Darling right now.
Through the S's now, sweeping left and right. Darling creeping up to second place. I think once you're to second, the door opens, but I don't think you can win from third here, at least not within the last 5 or 6 minutes. So Darling's first mission is going to be to get by this 22 car, or at least help him pass Robert Hartley, but that's going to be so difficult here without a lot of straightaway. House Heel about to fall into the clutches as Steve Ficacci in behind for 4th.
And White again gonna miss the corner on the brakes. He's trying to slow this car down. Second time he's missed an apex like that, and then he's gonna even fall more into Darling's hands here as they go on to the next lap.
Looks like Jonathan White's fallen off a little bit, or maybe he made a couple mistakes in a row, but he's fallen off the bumper of Robert Hartley. Now, when Paul Darling starts fighting Jonathan White, that might be all she wrote. There isn't a whole lot of time to gain time on Robert Hartley here, so we might see opportunity where Paul Darling thinks, oh man, we're too far away from first. I have to work together with you now to try to go back up and get him.
It's so hard to work together at a track like this here, DJ, because places like Road America, Sebring, Watkins, Glen, there's plenty of straight where you can kind of get in line and push and shove, but a track like Sonoma, there's really one opportunity to do that, and it's really don't even get past 4th gear, so I'm not really sure that there is a whole lot of working together other than not battling each other, which is really the only thing you can do.
Right, in Paul Darling's position, you would just play nice with them and then just be his number 1 fan. I believe in you.
Into the braking zone for turn 6. Hartley has led every single lap so far. That is 18 of the 22 laps that we're going to run here tonight. It'll be 4 laps to go when we get back around to the start-finish line. 7.5 minutes remaining. And the rest of the field is pretty constant. We'll briefly jump on back, talk about a couple drivers we haven't spoken a lot about tonight. Thomas Bresci in the 24 has had a good couple rounds lately, but sits back in 7th. He's been sort of stuck there. John Allen was crashed in race 1, spun around in the hairpin, but 22nd to 10th in this race.
John Allen, he's a world-class driver. John Allen's one of the only people to beat me in a sim racing competition. He beat me in the SCCA sim racing competition earlier this year, and he beat me fair and square. We both practiced, and he just came out ahead. So John Allen, he's an admin for this thing, so he always starts in the back. But I'm telling you, man, if he was starting with a qualifying position, he'd be fighting for the win for this series. John Allen is a force to reckon with.
Yeah, and actually, John Allen, his role in the SPEC MX-5 challenge is to create the setups. Again, in iRacing, you can tweak the car, and the MX-5 is not a super complex machine, but you can tweak the car and the spring rates and the tire pressures and that sort of thing. And this series is a fixed setup, so everybody has the exact same setup applied to the car, but John Allen's job is to create that setup and make it drivable. And from driving what he's created, he makes this car so enjoyable to drive.
Yeah, it's definitely an improvement over the baseline setup, which eats the front tires really fast. John setups tend to last a little longer, and they're also real fun to drive, as we see Hartley having some slip angle coming out of the carousel there.
Jonathan White closing in back to the rear bumper of Robert Hartley here, Finian. What's the plan for Jonathan White? He has not been able to complete this pass now with 5 minutes to go. I think now is go time.
Yeah, he needs to start going now. We saw him make the mistake last race, so just not really doing much until the last lap, really. And he needs to start, I think, now poking, prodding, as DJ was saying earlier, a little bit more if he can get to. But he's, I think, still struggling to get. While he's caught up to Hartley, he's starting to really close in a few more car lengths in, and I think that's going to be really trouble because you can't make a pass from this far back. And he's starting to make more and more mistakes here. And Darling's as Hartley, speaking of mistake, Hartley goes flying off the track in the penultimate corner.
That's the first mistake we've seen from Hartley all night. If that's the only mistake he makes, he still might be the winner here. I don't think that cost him that much time because you can carry a lot of speed through the dirt there. But that's kind of bunched everybody up. We got 4 cars here. You could throw a blanket over them.
3 laps to go here at Sonoma. Top 4 separated only by 0.7 of a second. Hartley's first mistake of the night just came in turn number 10. But once you get off track there, just keep your foot in it and counter steer, and you can hang on to it. So he's done that. But White is there. He's right next to him. If he can be this close going into turn 11 here, DJ, he can lunge down there and make the pass. So it's all about who can brake later. And is it worth making a Hail Mary move into that last corner? Do you think he can make that work?
Yes, always. It's always worth it. It's really important in the series to get the wins, especially because of the drop races. The wins are worth the most amount of points, and I mean, also, you get a cool little gift card from all the great sponsors in the series when you grab a win as well. So, you know, little added benefit in the here and now. But yeah, I think as we get closer to the end, Hartley's going to expect some lunges, and you'll see him start to cover up the inside to make sure that he's not bullied going into the last turn.
Yeah, so Hartley leaves the lane open there into turn number 6, but Paul Darling is right behind Jonathan White as well. Got a pretty good run on corner exit. If he could get by there, he might be able to launch an effort, but it's so hard to make a pass through this section. Attacking the curbs, trying to get that car to rotate. He might try to take a lunge at the 22 into turn 11 because he's got a big run coming.
He's got a big run, went through the grass. It kind of kills momentum just a little bit, but it's definitely close enough to make a lunge here to the hairpin, and that's not what White needs.
Oh, he's out wide. He's way wide, but he's got to stick with it.
That's fine as long as you don't hit the wall. It cost him a little bit of time, though. I bet he lifted.
Coming back to 2 laps to go. Front 4 still separated by less than a second. But Hartley has about a half-second gap back to Jonathan White, and that might be enough to hang on here. Got to gain a couple tenths a lap if you're Jonathan White, and he has not been able to do that, really. I mean, he does have the quickest lap between himself and Hartley, but the fastest lap of the race is actually run by Paul Darling in 3rd.
Yeah, Paul's looking real fast, and I don't know how much patience he's going to have for Jonathan White here. But I don't know if Paul can get past John and Robert with the 2 laps to go. I think he kind of has to cheerlead his way into John and Robert getting together and trying to clean up the scraps if he wants to go for a win in this race.
Into turn 4 now, and I think we got a lap and a half left to go. Predictions for Jonathan White. Is he going to be able to make this happen?
I don't think so. I mean, it seems like he's really struggling to drive the car in this kind of middle part of the race leading to the last few laps here. It just doesn't seem like he's got enough pace to hang on to Hartley, but that's not going to win him the race here as Hartley would. It seems like he made another mistake. He goes off the track again.
Starting to weave there a little bit, DJ. Is that a sign that Robert Hartley feels like White can smell the blood in the water here?
Yeah, he might be, the front tires might be a little bit in trouble here as you're watching him push. Like, that's another apex miss. I think he's missed about 3 apexes in a row here. The tires might have jumped off the cliff. If Jonathan White is noticing this, it will be the time to attack. I think will be this lap going into this last little bit, because if you wait again, Paul might just go, okay, well, fine, you didn't get past him. I'll just grab second from you.
All right, track.
He's close enough.
Yeah, look at Darling again, tracking through the dirt on corner exit. Second to last time to enter this corner, but he's right there. Again, he's got to be that close by the time they get to corner entry. But he's right on the rear bumper now, so we're going to hit white flag. 1 lap to go at Sonoma. Got a great run on corner exit on the back of Robert Hartley. And here they go.
Now, if you nail the turn 1A and B, you might be able to get a nose in before turn 3 there. But John kind of bottled himself up by not completely setting up on the left there, as you see Paul Darling getting a little bit of a run on him. Paul doesn't decide to stick the nose there. I'm curious
pretty tame tonight,
how
huh?
you would get past Hartley. Yeah, they're just chilling.
Yeah, I don't know. And again, it's not that they're not trying. They're definitely trying. It's a thing. The car, though, they're asking the car to give too much, and the car can't really give them much more. I think their tires are spent.
Yeah, this is a track that's known to be pretty abrasive on tires, especially this off-camber turn 5. You're going about 80 miles an hour on corner exit, and the banking completely falls away. You're just scrubbing the rubber off the side of the tire. So by the end of the race, you just pretty much worn them out. Again, a lot of flat, on-cambered corners. You're just dragging the rubber around. But Jonathan White is so close, but he just chucked it in there. I think that was a last-chance effort to shrink that gap. But here comes Darling for second now as they head to the S's.
Yeah, but Jonathan White had the outside there, so he's going to have more rolling speed coming into the S's here. I think what we're seeing in this race is Hartley is really good out of the carousel, which takes away one passing opportunity, and he's so solid through the S's here. As you watch him just open up a car length and a half just in the S's alone. And just being good at those two spots means you win. And I think that's what we're seeing tonight. Hartley is really great on the spots that we need to see.
Here comes Darling up the inside for second. That's a big lunge down into the final corner. Darling blows it, and he's going to lose that spot. And another one, because here comes Halseal for third. Drag race back to the checkers. I think Darling might have the left-hand corner here. He might be able to grab that back. Robert Hartley, he sweeps the week. And Jonathan White comes in second for third. Paul Darling by a nose keeps third place away from Ken Halseal by 1/10 of a second. But Robert Hartley, he does it again. He sweeps at Sonoma.
Yeah, really solid driver.
I think he's the second ever driver to sweep a race.
Congratulations from the 51 of Steve Ficacci. But for Hartley, he made that look easy. Jonathan White thought he might have lost second there in the final moments, but Darling just drove in there way too deep. But in hindsight, DJ didn't lose him anything, but it was an opportunity to gain.
Yeah, I mean, it was good heads up from Jonathan White to not get tangled up in that. But, I mean, I applaud Paul for trying something there. Look, I know all these guys are friends, but you're also competing. And sometimes you kind of have to be a little bit of a jerk if you want to be the guy that comes out on top. Or you could just be like Robert Hartley and just put on a clinic on how to drive this car around Sonoma. He only made one mistake that we could see, and he was flawless for the rest of the night. And that's what you got to do if you want to win these races.
For those that are familiar with iRacing's ranking system, there's a number called an iRating, which is basically a number that's based off your skill level. The average of all iRacers is about 1,500. Well, Robert Hartley is on the first page of world record iRatings. His iRating 9,700, which is almost double the next best guy. It's just such an impressive driver behind the wheel of that car, and he swept both races tonight. But we're going to have one more round to decide the champion for this season, and Hartley will be a competitor there at COTA in 2 weeks' time. Here's a look at your race results, and we'll let those scroll on through here in just a moment. But looking back to the rest of the field, we didn't really talk about a whole lot of mid-pack battles. There was that big accident earlier in the race that took out a whole bunch of drivers, including Chris Taylor, Drew Reinhardt, Kevin Zhu, Riley Thompson, Jack Sanchez, Alexander Lekowitz, and of course Chris Henn with the big accident on the opening lap. A shame for his day to end that way, considering how much speed he had, especially in race 1, and was looking for a podium in race 2, but didn't quite work out. Letting the results scroll on through in just a moment. We're going to have our race winner and a couple other drivers join us here in the booth, and we're going to step away. We'll be right back. You'll hear from our sponsors, and we'll talk to Robert Hartley and more. Stay with us. Welcome back live to SPEC MX-5 Sim Racing Challenge here on Winding Road Magazine. We're joined now by our podium finisher in race number 2 of the night. That's Paul Darling, driver of the number 55. Paul, you gave it all you had there coming down into turn number 11. Couldn't quite make it stick, but still a pretty good night for you in that bright yellow car.
Yeah, not too bad. Glad to come away with at least one podium tonight. It was extremely hard to pass and just kept messing up my runs entering the hairpin, but tried to make something happen at the end there.
It seemed like tonight the tires wore off towards the end. How much did you have to conserve the tires? Was that a big problem, and was that one of the contributing factors to it being so hard to pass?
I'm not sure if the tire fall off is so much as to blame for as the track. This car is definitely a consistent fall off at every track we go to. It's like the first 3 laps are great, and then after that it's a real struggle. But yeah, it was definitely a challenge to pass anyone today.
DJ, you were hanging out with Paul this weekend, and obviously you guys talked about how Paul hasn't yet won a race in this series, but has finished third, I don't know, a handful of times. DJ, any thoughts on Paul's run here tonight before we head to Coda in 2 weeks?
Yeah, I mean, what people don't know, and I never brought it up in the broadcast, is Paul had a wheel failure going into this event. So he actually is borrowing his buddy's wheel right now, and he had to learn a whole nother wheel feel and everything going into this race. So, Paul, you did a great job adapting to that. So I just wanted to say kudos to that.
Thank you, guys.
Paul Darling, third place tonight. Top 5 in both races. We'll see you in 2 weeks, Paul, at Circuit of the Americas. All right, moving on now to our second place finisher in both races tonight. He swept, but it was for P2. Jonathan, tonight it seemed so difficult to pass and couldn't quite get past Robert Hartley. Take us through tonight and your attempts to get by the race leader.
You know, I was trying my best to get around him, and Rob had some insane pace today, but it seemed like the last corner he was struggling a bit to get the exit right. So me, Paul, and Kendall would catch him there, and it was kind of a struggle because in race 2, Paul was hauling ass trying to, pass me towards the end. I was doing my best to hold him off, but I can only do so much with Rob in front of me.
In 2 weeks, we're going to have our Circuit of the Americas, which is our final round of the season in the championship race. You're going to go in there after the drops, probably be in a pretty competitive spot. Your thoughts on Circuit of the Americas, and do you think you got a chance to win this thing?
It's a difficult track. I'm not the best at it, but I guess if I put in maybe 15 hours, I'll be pretty competitive. So we'll see. All
right, Jonathan, nice run tonight. DJ, got anything for John before we let him go?
Yeah, John, what would you have had to do? What could you have done differently to try to get around Hartley? Like, where did you need to be faster?
Honestly, I was thinking about that the entire time, and I felt like maybe, I don't know what turn it is, but the one, the right-hander, the hairpin, where you kind of break next to the billboard signs?
Yep.
I guess if I was faster there, I maybe I had more, if I had more racing experience on this track, I might have been able to get around him there. But I didn't want to risk hitting him off the track because I wasn't really entirely sure if it would work or not.
Gotcha. Yeah, you're talking about turn 6.
Yeah.
All right, Jonathan. Hey, congratulations. 2 seconds tonight. Thanks. We'll see you in 2 weeks at Coda. Good luck.
All right, see you guys.
Yeah. And our race winner in both rounds tonight, Robert Hartley, swept the week. They're only the second driver to ever do that here in SPEC MX-5 Sim Racing Challenge. Robert tonight put on a clinic, as DJ Alcindrini said earlier. And as you head to Coda in 2 weeks' time, you got to be feeling pretty good coming off the high of winning both races this evening.
Yeah, it feels good. You can't pass here hardly. So if you can hold your line and don't make many mistakes, you can keep the lead here. And I learned that from DJ last year when he got to the front. It was hard to pass him. So if you can get to the front here, it's hard to pass.
Is this track easier to defend from because it's so hard to pass? I know there's some tracks like Road America and Sebring where it just feels like no matter what you do, the driver behind has the advantage. So what's different about Sonoma that makes it so difficult for the trailing driver to get a run?
You can back up your corners and get the good run out, and there's just nothing they can really do as long as you hit your marks. And that's what I was doing to Jonathan. I know he was getting frustrated behind me because I was backing him up a little bit, but my tires were going, and that's what I had to do to hit the apex.
You head to Coda in 2 weeks to round out the season. Your thoughts on that track and how much of a chance you think you got at collecting the championship this time around?
Coda is going to be a little more exciting. A little more passing opportunity with that big straightaway. Just hope I can stay up front and make it happen there at the end.
DJ, anything before we turn him loose?
Nah, Robert's driving did all the talking. He drove great tonight. So congrats, Robert. You were amazing tonight.
DJ.
All right, Robert, thanks for joining us here tonight. We're going to let him go. Thanks, Robert, a lot. We'll see you in 2 weeks. All right, that's going to wrap up the interviews here tonight, guys. Let's talk about this race, and let's talk about heading into Dakota in 2 weeks. DJ, that's a track you've actually gotten the chance to race on in the real world in an NC Miata. Tell me a little bit about that track and what it's like to run on it.
That track is it's an interesting racetrack. It's two tracks kind of mushed into one. It's got the nice flowy section in the beginning, and then you have all the hairpins. It's really interesting how it races with the wide track limits. It's a very, very tough track to race on, but that arena section with all the hairpins back and forth, left, right, it creates some amazing racing, side-by-side action. It's always fun for the spectators at COTA.
Finian, your thoughts on Circuit of the Americas, obviously the site of the U.S. Grand Prix, so it's built for Formula One high downforce cars, and we're going to race on it with 150 horsepower MX-5s. Your thoughts on that final race of the season, and how is it as a finale? Is that the best place where we could do it?
Yeah, honestly, it's I think one of the better tracks to do it, and it's going to lead to a lot of passing. I think with a very long straight, especially the back stretch too, guys are going to be having a field day getting a draft off of one another into some of these corners. Yes, and it's also, but still, while it's going to be fairly easy to pass in some parts of the track, it's also still a very challenging circuit as well. So it's definitely going to test the drivers and how well they can perform on the track. So it's not going to be an easy drive by any means. So really looking forward to them finishing out the season at COTA.
Thank you so much for joining us here on the Winding Road Magazine YouTube channel. Again, my name is Kyle Heyer, joined by Finian Dcunha and last year's winner, DJ Alessandrini. Wish DJ luck, and make sure you follow the SPEC MX-5 Challenge Facebook and Instagram to find DJ exploring the real-world racing world of SPEC MX-5 Challenge this weekend at Michelin Raceway Road, Atlanta. And we'll see you in 2 weeks for the season finale of the 2020 SPEC MX-5 Sim Racing Challenge. Thanks again to Winding Road and to Level Up Racing School, as well as Rick Motec High Performance Sim Racing Equipment. We'll see you in 2 weeks in Austin, Texas.